in Nigeria. We've said that earlier on because this is a major challenge for everybody in the world at large, where people migrate from one end to the other. And some people have said it's because of migration. Some people have said it's because of the economic situation of a person that makes the person gives himself out to be trafficked. Some other person has said indecision. Some people just want to leave for no really good reason. But we have our guest in the studios this morning. We have Pascal Moore, and she is an anti-human trafficking unit of the Salvation Army. Good morning to you, Pascal.
Good morning.
We also have Barrister Eric Umar from the same unit. Good morning to you.
Good morning, viewers.
Okay, when we say human trafficking, what does that mean to you, Pascal?
Right. Thank you very much, and thank you to Super Screen TV for having us in today. Human trafficking, in the simplest form, easiest way to understand, is any act of recruiting or obtaining someone or a person by force, by deception, by coercion, by abuse of power, or by abuse of one's position. For example, a parent can abuse their position as parents and give away their child in exchange for money, or expecting something in return, and taking this person to a place where they are exploited in different ways, exploited in forced labor, exploited as a domestic servant, or exploited in sexual, prostitution or sexually. But also other forms of exploitation could be with for organ removal, or people are forced into criminal activities, but again, they're still victims of human trafficking. So that is the simplest way of understanding human trafficking in our communities.
Okay, I'm going to ask that same question, but in a different style to Eric Omar, looking at what she said about child trafficking. What will make a man, a parent, or an individual say, hey, some says they want to do it themselves. It's not that someone is trafficking them. They want to go themselves. What will make someone give the child out to take overseas? What do you think brings about that?
Well, thank you very much for that. First of all, I'd like to clarify that human trafficking as it is a problem. And it's not just people, there's a lot of misconceptions around it, and that tends to be the main problem. Because when you hear human trafficking, it's not just international, it could be domestic, and it's either way. So trafficking can occur in Nigeria, interstate, or it could also occur when it's foreign from one country to another. It is both trafficking either way. The important thing is that there have been exploitation, and that is not acceptable. And in that process, there's a violation of people's rights, and in that process, people are violated. Their rights to freedom, their freedom of liberty, their right to association, all the restrictions and the rest. Asking about what could make people give into trafficking, nobody can, with knowledge, consent to being exploited or consent to being trafficked. So either way, there are elements that give rise to it. Pastor Hadelian mentioned some of them: force, fraud, deception, coercion, abuse of power, and the rest of it. So there are three key elements for trafficking. One is the action, the second one is the means, then the third is the purpose. If you're talking of the action, you're looking at what was done from the point of recruitment to transporting the victim, to harboring, up to the point of receipt.
We'll take it one step after the other, because the cruelty associated with trafficking is another reason we're talking about it. Some people will tell you, if you see what they go through, you will not want to stop talking about it. You must begin to enlighten people about what they can face when people come with all sorts of promises. Looking at this, some will tell you they don't have an option. There's no option, because these people comes to tell you, okay, you're going overseas, I'll take you there. When they get there, they'll tell you if you don't pay back, they'll kill some members of your family. So there's no option. Some will say, I want to go myself. I'm just tired. I'm not getting a job. Some have bills to pay. And they say the best way to pay all this debt, say someone that's not working and is having debts to pay, I need to travel outside the country. Now, in my mind, it's looking as though human trafficking is slavery. Pascal, is it the same thing? Human trafficking, is it the same thing as, because in my mind it's looking similar like slavery because of what happened in Libya. Can we say human trafficking is also slavery?
Right, you already said it. Human trafficking is a modern day form of slavery. That's why the term human trafficking and modern slavery is normally used together. It is not like in the past where slaves are recruited and chained up. This one, people are chained up emotionally. People are chained up because there are issues. Sometimes people are taken to perform rituals before departure. So there is that mental and psychological manipulation, okay? Now, if we want to see human trafficking on the street with the chains, we're not going to see it. We just need to understand that there is human trafficking happening in our societies, abuse of power, abuse of human rights, just like Eric said. It is a crime against individuals. Now, you mentioned about issues that people say they have no choice. I will drop back to lack of awareness. Awareness not in the sense of hearing the term human trafficking, but awareness in the sense that people do not understand what is involved in the travels, what is involved in going to Europe if that is the promise given to you. So before departure, before you make that step to give in to that recruitment, we are working with the communities, engaging the communities to ask questions that can help them dig out underlying issues, plan your journey. Where am I going to? Who will I be living with? How is life there? Okay? What does the law say? Who can I speak to for more information?
So these are the questions that must be asked first before releasing your child. You said 3 points, and I want us to take from that end. What are those points?
Okay, thank you. I was trying to talk about the elements of trafficking. I had mentioned the action. I talked about the means and also the purpose. Those are 3 key elements to establish the check for indicators of trafficking in any case as it is. So the action is about the recruitment, where are people recruited from, the communities, and where there's a vulnerability. People are recruited up to the point of received transportation. All those are action. The means, how was it done? Was it through fraud? Was it deception? Was it coercion? Was it abuse of power? Was it abuse of a position of vulnerability? All those are the means. Then we get to the purpose. The purpose is only one, and it can only be one. It is exploitation, exploitation, and more exploitation. That is the purpose. So if these elements are established, then you can begin to talk of, there's a trafficking there.
Okay, so that's the elements that will make you the indicators that will make you know that there's element of trafficking there. Yeah,
very key element. And I need to point out that I'm not just saying this. These are international standards based on the Palermo Protocol.
I know.
For the definition of trafficking.
Looking at it, because I know the international communities, they are coming together to put an end to this because it's a crime. Now, I want to ask Pastor, Nigeria is associated with human trafficking. Why is it so?
I think I would give that question to Eric to answer because Eric is in the community. It would be of no use me giving you information based on internet.
Can you tell us why Nigeria is associated with human trafficking?
Oh, thank you, Pascal, for reverting that to me. I'm a foot soldier here. I'm in Nigeria. I'm working on trafficking, so it only makes more sense that I speak about it. There's what we call root causes to trafficking, what we call predisposing factors to trafficking. what we call push factors, those things that make people want to even travel in the first place. If you want to travel, people have a right to migration, but what we keep saying is that before you leave, you must have to make informed choices. Where are you going to? What are you going to do? Do you know the laws and all that? The factors that are root causes that are making people want to travel and eventually make them subject to exploitation, which becomes trafficking. Those things are there. Those things have been there for a long time. Some of them include poverty, is a key factor. Unemployment is a key factor. Cultural factors like gender imbalance and the rest of them. Voodoo practices is another key factor. Porous borders is a key factor. Corruption, bad leadership, etc., etc. But these root causes, they are never going to go away. So what we keep saying is that people need to be informed. People need to know what the reality is. People need to be able to make informed choices by knowing what is obtainable, by knowing what is this, what is that. At that point, if you want to travel, even though as much as you have a right, you'll be in a position to make better choices. These root causes, they are not going to disappear in a day. Organizations are making efforts, the government is making efforts. It takes time. But more importantly, people need to get the facts right.
Okay, because I asked Pascal this particular question where we talked about, I wanted her to differentiate between human trafficking and slavery. I'm sure you're familiar with the story of Nigerians that came back from Libya, the incident that happened.
Yeah, it was all over the news.
Okay,
yeah.
Some of them said they were sold in Libya, they were sold as slaves because they paid $200 to pick a human being. And you see some with children. And I want to ask you, is that trafficking or slavery when you pay money? Could that be trafficking? Because they were told in Libya they were selling them out to the white people there. Is that not slavery? Can we say that is human trafficking and not slavery? Can you differentiate? Because we need to know the difference between slavery and human trafficking. What Pascal said was, one was emotional and one was with chains. They sell your emotions. You are chained, your emotions are chained. But I want to hear from you also. Taking case, looking at what happened in Libya recently, where they begged Nigerians government to take them away from this slavery. Could that be slavery?
I think before Eric comes in, I would like to clarify.
Okay.
When I drew reference to the physical chain,
yes.
The point is this: trafficking is happening, not just in Libya, okay? And trafficking is a modern form of slavery. So that is what I meant.
Okay. Modern form of slavery. To you, what
Yes,
is
just,
trafficking with slavery?
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
Taking it up from there, I must also say that the Libya incident is quite unfortunate.
Was pathetic. Let's use better choice of word.
Yes, pathetic, unfortunate, and well, it's just appalling. But what is there is that for Libya, it was a case of an emerging slave market for the trade, as was reported in CNN. And for most of the returnees, I need to clarify, not all the cases were cases of trafficking. Okay. They had cases of illegal migrants, they had cases of economic migrants, they had cases of prisoners that they don't have their papers and they ended up in prison and they needed deportation. So that clarity needs to be there. Going back to your question about differentiating modern slavery and human trafficking, I think Pascal had also talked about that with her illustration, but just to bring another angle to it and to make maybe our viewers understand more. Modern slavery is more like the composite term. It's a composite term which includes other forms of exploitation. But human trafficking is under modern slavery. It's a form of modern slavery. Okay,
but what we heard, those people that came, I wanted to invite one of them here today, but we couldn't do that. They said this wasn't human trafficking. This was slavery because they went through human trafficking, but when they got there, they were lined up and were selling them to blacks, Africans, were selling them out to other people. And you're on the queue and someone is saying, you can buy this for $200. You can buy this woman, or this girl, or this guy, or this boy, $400. So they were doing physical selling of human beings. But that's not where we're going to alone. What do you think needs to be done?
I think I just would like to add something first to Eric's explanation about the scenario of the things happening in Libya. As we said, human trafficking involves deception. That is one mean, okay? There are people recruited, for example, from Egypt, from Nigeria, and they are told, maybe they were not even recruited. Maybe they contacted these individuals and said, I would like to travel to Europe. Could you help me? And then, when they were traveling thinking that they would be headed to reach to their destination. There is a strong link between smuggling and human trafficking.
Okay.
That's why every case is assessed case by case. So when these migrants are returned, repatriated, they go through screening interviews. For those who have trafficking indicators, they are offered support as victims of human trafficking. Okay? Sarah, your question was?
Yeah, I was saying, we're using Libya as a case study. You know, what happened in Libya recently where our government, Nigerian government, had to go and help people out back home. Had to take them back home because of all of these allegations that was levied against them over there. So, but looking at it, I'm asking, what do you think can be done? What do you think individuals, parents, organizations can do to stop this menace? Because it's a crime. What do you think they can do to stop this?
Okay. First of all, Libya is just one case.
That's why I said it's a case study.
And there are trafficking happening in our backyards now. So what should be done? What should individuals do? What should parents do? What should, community as a whole do? What should the government do? There is a need for everybody to work together. There is a need for the government to work with the community. The government to improve on the areas that needs improvement. Immigration laws. Eric mentioned some of the push factors. But again, some of the push factors are strongly linked to, I could say, attitude. Things like poverty is something which has always been there and it will always be there. So people in the community need to be contented. We should not be looking at our neighbors and saying that, look, Olusobola is in the UK, she is doing well. Okay? People should be contented. The message that we're working with people, I said in the beginning, is that in the community, people need to be empowered. Empowered with knowledge. Government should work with the community. Law enforcement authorities, they need to look out. Immigration officials, when you encounter somebody that you suspect is being trafficked, please act there and then.
Okay, thank you. I want to ask Eric. Eric, what do you understand by the underlying reason she gave? She gave economic reason, poverty. She gave some other reasons. What do you understand by that?
Oh, thank you. We are still talking about the predisposing factors,
yes.
And I feel we should not in any way limit this. There are a myriad of them, there are so many, but really our focus should be on letting people know what the reality is and how they can provide make informed choices. Now, I need to state that human trafficking, as we've all agreed, is criminal and it is unacceptable. There are laws in Nigeria, the international laws that the Nigerian government is part of, that specifically prohibits human trafficking.
Can we hear some of those laws?
One of them is the Palermo Protocol,
yes.
The first one, the UN Convention. Secondly is the Constitution of Nigeria. The Chapter 4 covers fundamental human rights. Human trafficking violates almost all the rights. Now, there's the NAPTIP Act. It's called Trafficking in Person Prohibition Enforcement Act 2015. It establishes NAPTIP, but it has been upgraded. So NAPTIP is the agency in charge of working. And they coordinate with other organizations, too, including the Salvation Army and media organizations and other CSO, faith-based organizations, Caritas, to promote the work of awareness. There's also the Child Rights Act. That includes children specifically, safeguarding child protection issues, the laws covers that, and the means of enforcement. There's the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Enforcement Act. It's called VAP Act of 2015. So many other laws in Nigeria that
so in case
trafficking.
You don't know that there are laws against human trafficking. You've heard Eric. Final word from you, Pascal Moore. Let's hear a final word. What do you want to say to the viewers this morning? Final word. Right. Advice to parents, to individual, association, to government. The final word.
Right. Thank you very much for being with us. My word is a call to the community that we need to look out for each other. We need to be united and form that protection in our community. There are so many things happening, but if the community can look out and spot the signs of human trafficking, then that is the starting point. If you see that there is something happening which doesn't seem right, do not let it carry on. Speak to the local authorities, speak to the police, speak to the community leader, speak to NAPTIP in your community so that something is done there and then.
Thank you. What about you? Final words.
Okay, thank you. To our viewers this morning, I'd just like them to know that traffickers, they have many tricks. They come in different forms. They come using different things to entice you. Just say no. And there's too much silence. People need to start speaking up. If you don't understand, please reach out to the organizations that are working in these areas and you get more information and help.
Okay, I want to thank Pascal Moore, a program manager of Anti-Human Trafficking Unit, Salvation Army. Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank
and
you.
Also Barrister Eric Umoro at the Anti-Human Trafficking Unit.
Thank you very much. Thank you, viewers.
Thank you for coming. Well, because we're still going to continue with the issue, how we can tackle it. We'll go on a break. When we come back, we have other guests out. We'll be talking on that. Stay with us.
Pimples are small skin lesions or inflammations of the skin. They develop when sebaceous glands become clogged and infected, leading to swollen, red lesions filled with pus. Pimples are also known as spots or zits. Acne is a skin condition that causes pimples or zits. Acne occurs when the pores on your skin becomes blocked with oil, dead skin, or bacteria. Each pore on your skin is the opening to a follicle. The follicle is made up of a hair and a sebaceous gland. The oil gland releases sebum, which travels up.
Welcome back. Still discussing, tackling issues of human trafficking. We have Barrister Destiny Tankan in the studios with us. Good morning to you, Barrister.
Thank you very much. Good to be here again.
Good to see you.
Welcome on SUPERDAWN again.
Yes, my pleasure.
Now, we're talking about human trafficking. A lot of women, we took the case of Libya, where you saw women with babies, some taking their children and taking themselves, crossing the Mediterranean. You begin to wonder, why will people take their kids? Are they going to sell those children? To you, what does that mean when you heard Nigerians willingly are going to give themselves out for slavery? I don't want to use the word slavery, but that's what it is. What came to mind?
It simply underscores the level to which we've degraded, as a people, as a nation. It's a statement. It speaks volumes about, what premium, our government, places on the welfare of citizens, security of life, and there is no person. There's a natural instinct, natural survival instinct in everybody. The instinct to self-preservation. It is the reason why, if I brought my hand straight towards your face, you stretch out with your hand, to resist that by blocking it or subduing me, and so no person would willingly, if everything were okay with him or her, want to put himself on the path of slavery or the path of death, on the path of harm. You can imagine stories on a daily basis of how many people drown, crossing the Mediterranean. Some go by the desert, to try to cross into Spain through Libya and Morocco and all of that. And in the process, lots and lots of them die of fatigue. No person, but what I'm saying is there are underlying factors.
Now, can we hear those factors?
Yeah, those factors basically is simple. It is ignorance, poverty, ignorance and poverty. Those are the twin factors responsible. But then what occasions the ignorance and poverty? It is bad governance. It is lack of welfare. Governments the world over, I've said this so many times in different fora, the trust of governance the world over, in civilized climes is welfarist oriented. It's for the welfare of the people, to the extent I have also said that any policy of government that does not take into consideration, an underlying consideration, the welfare of its citizenry, is an illegitimate policy. So in a country like ours, where corruption, bad governance, and has reduced the quality of human life.
So we are blaming this
the quality of human life. Yes, the quality on bad governance. That's what's responsible. Yeah. Yes, if you have good governance, you would have citizens will be educated. All right, lots of citizens will go to school. And also the citizenship awareness, programs on TV, on radio, by whatever means, in the churches, in the mosques, to tell people about what their rights are, to infuse dignity to the human person, But as I said, because of bad governance, what do you have? Corruption that has given birth to abysmal poverty, to the extent that if you look at the equation of the living standards, it is said to be in Nigeria living under $20, I mean that's the quality of.
Okay. So what can you say about this situation?
Did I say? No, I didn't say $20. Did I say $20? No. I mean, of course, I meant like 20 cents.
20 cents. Okay. What do you have to say about the situation where a Nigerian man who is very particular about his daughter is being involved in human trafficking to another country and is enslaved into prostitution and the likes? For we Nigerians, we're very particular. We always want to protect our daughters, but we, at this point, we let free our daughters to be taken into countries and exposed to stuffs where we could not trace back our homes. What can you say about that? That a man who is protective, overprotective of his daughter, leaves his daughter to go outside the country to do something that
it is the natural drive or desire to better his lot and the lot of his children and her siblings that will make him let his daughter out. But I don't think there is any Nigerian, any father. I'm a father and I have daughters. I know what attachment, what passion, I have regarding my daughters. No sane father, maybe I should use that, would know that my daughter has been taken into slavery, modern day slavery, which could be either for, what do you call it, prostitution, or not. When we say prostitution,
not only prostitution.
That's marks of consent. Yes, somebody saying there are people who leave the shores of this country, we are aware, from particular states, as it were, to go to Italy and elsewhere to prostitute.
The Midwest, and someone begins to wonder, is it part of their custom? Is it their culture? That because it's prevalent there. Yes,
it's prevalent. Now I'm saying, not to detract, I'm saying, there are people who leave the shores of this country for that purpose particularly. That is a personal decision. Okay. But the lot of what we're dealing with are people whose parents are deceived to say, I need a house help. I need somebody to employ in my salon in Europe. I need somebody whom I would give work to, and naturally, the father looks at what is the rate of exchange of the naira to the dollar, and he says, oh, well, if my daughter earns in dollars, I can imagine what that would do, not knowing that indeed his daughter is being taken into sex slavery or even to forced labor.
Okay, we have to wrap up this program, but before going, I begin to wonder what manner of person will engage in this kind of business. People do it as business, and they make bigger monies, they make mega monies from it. What kind of person will really engage in human trafficking as a business? And what advice do you have finally for parents, government, so that we can stop this modern day slavery?
Very well, I think that what the government can do, and for parents, government especially, more vigilant. It's not just enough saying you set up the anti-human trafficking agencies and all of that, but to intensify surveillance at our borders, and to ensure that if somebody is being taken out of the shores of this country, proper data is taken as to who the person is, where the person is being taken to, who is taking the person there, and a follow-up as to be able to know that that person is doing well, wherever she is. The opportunity to be able to talk to that person and to have officers in all of Europe and other parts of the world where these people are going to, who occasionally with this data follow up and have access to these people. Because you have situations where people are taken into forced labor, some are taken and their human parts harvested. They're killed, and so the government can do a lot, and in one breath, and in another, to also improve on the quality of human, in our country, ensure that there's employment, ensure that there's security of life, ensure that there's good governance, ensure that we can improve on the poverty index. Because these are the things I would say that drive.
We need to go now. Well, I want to thank Barrister Destiny Tako for coming on this edition of the program. Thank you.
My pleasure as always.
Thank you very much.
We must wrap up now from Anthony.
I just have to say, Nigerians, we are all one. We really don't have to go out there to another man's country to do things that are not worth it. Stay in your country, build the country, and of course, it's going to be a better place.
Yeah, it's going to be a better place, and the president of the Nigerian Footballers Federation, Pinnick, has said that we can host any event. I just wanted to put that. They said Nigeria is able and ready to host any FIFA event. I hope we are ready. I'm praying that we can host that, but we must wrap up now. And I want to say thank you for this wonderful event, today's show. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow with another very interesting edition of the program. I am Vera also. Well, up next is Super Screen News. We'll see you tomorrow.